Hey guys, Ian here, Fantastic Dimensions, coming to you out of the dark on the late night drive home from work. So, I want to talk to you a little bit about Eclipse Phase. I told you at the beginning of the year in my kind of beginning of the year update video that I was going to focus on Eclipse Phase this year. It would be my the game I was going to study, the game I was going to master in 2015. So, yeah, I haven't done anything with Eclipse Phase at all, but I'm going to rectify that. I've just got distracted by Fate and lots of other stuff that was going on, but yeah, I'm back at it with Eclipse Phase. Started reading it again just this earlier today, actually, kind of recapping what I had already read because it's been, 6 months since I looked at it. So, tell you a little bit about Eclipse Phase. So it's a transhumanity sci-fi horror role-playing game. It takes place after the fall of Earth. So what had basically happened, going back prior to the fall, humanity had advanced technology was advancing faster than mankind. And eventually, of course, kind of reached a singularity, which I'll talk about in a second. But, they had all the same problems that we're having in the world now, where they had, political climate was rough, they had geopolitical issues, lots of, environmental issues. They tried to correct a lot of these things with more technology, and it backfired on them. Just lots of problems in the world. And, of course, also behind the scenes, governments were working on what's it called? Non-autonomous AI. Sorry. Basically working on AI that could think for itself and react for itself. And they were developing this for info war, cyber war, and even for actual militant war as well. This ultimately backfired, even though humanity had advanced so far as to kind of become transhuman to the point where they could digitize the ego. Basically everything mentally that makes you you. Your memories, your emotions, your skills, all of your knowledge. Everything that mentally makes you you could be digitized and transferred from, your body into basically like a thumb drive type thing called a cortical stack. So you could transfer from one body to another, or from one body into like an electronic storage, into like a little VR world almost, just on a computer or anything of that sort. So they had made all these great advances in that sense, but of course, typical sci-fi, post-apocalyptic, what bit them in the ass was the AI that they developed for their warfare. A machine, or I should say maybe a program. I don't know how to describe it exactly yet because I haven't read enough about it. But there was this thing called Titan. Titan was one of these non-autonomous AIs, and it was, I think developed for like international and global warfare. It became self-aware and decided that, humanity was a problem. And instead of just attacking right away, it spent a few days kind of gathering more information, making a plan, getting control of autonomous machines, and it did a lot of sneaky things behind the scenes, like starting wars between nations by launching nuclear missile attacks and things of that sort. So the world was engulfed in international nuclear, chemical, biological war, even before they realized that they had a problem with this rogue AI that had decided to turn on them. When they did realize this, of course, Titan had control of lots of autonomous war machines, and so you can think it was kind of like a Cyberdyne kind of situation, or a Skynet situation, from the Terminator. So humanity was fucked, right? There's 8 billion people between Earth, and they had colonies on Luna and Mars as well. But all of a sudden they're under attack by Titan on all of these places. There were other colonies too that I can't think of off the top of my head, but those are the ones I remember. So what they had to do, they had to evacuate. Earth was hit the hardest. Earth was basically being systematically wiped out. And Titan was also stealing all of these human egos and uploading them for itself. Ultimately, only about 500 million humans, or transhumans if you want to call them that, survived. and most of that by ego casting, which is uploading your ego out of your body into a machine, sent to another colony, planet, etc., whatever, in order to be downloaded into another morph, another body. They're called morphs in this game at a later date. A lot of humans, transhumans, whatever you want to call them, didn't have backup bodies already in place, and they become what's called an infomorph. So they're just simply a digitized ego in a storage machine somewhere. The rich, the powerful, and you know, the privileged already had backup plans in place, and so they were able to find other morphs on other colonies and other worlds. But these infomorphs became what were called infugis. So they're basically refugees, but they're just infomorphs. So the powers that be, the people who had the power and had the morphs, were able to build more what's called like synth morphs and things, which are basically like robotic bodies that these infugis could be downloaded into. And then they would have to work off a debt over a long period of time in order to gain their own morphs from their, you know, indebtors or whatever, these people that had given them their synth morphs, and, you know, basically push them into slavery, transhuman slavery. But it's not a big deal, right? Because your infomorph is immortal. Your ego is immortal. The body can die, but as long as you can get another body, you know, you're basically immortal. And these cortical stacks, your ego can be backed up and stuff too. There's a whole bunch of stuff which I haven't even gotten into reading yet, but we'll talk later about backups and forks, where you can divide your ego into multiple bodies. It gets really confusing and messy, but I'll get into that more as I read it. But the purpose of this video anyway was just to give you a bit of information, what I've read so far about the kind of background of Eclipse Phase. This is what's happened, and now the game picks up 10 years after the fall. Transhumanity has colonies all over the place now. At this stage, they have colonies on Mars and Luna, of course, still, but they also have different satellites and asteroid belts, moons of other planets. There's Venus has lots of colonies on it. There's colonies on Titan, colonies, I think, on Saturn itself. I can't recall exactly, maybe just on the moons. Europa, colonies all over the solar system. Also, what I forgot to say, it just got very dark there. What I forgot to say too was that after Titan basically wiped out Earth and took all of these humans, human egos prisoner, and took it with them, they basically disappeared, and nobody knows where they went. Now there are still remaining Titan machines roaming around different colonies and causing problems, but the bulk of Titan, the AI itself, disappeared. Shortly after that, the first Pandora Gate was discovered. Now, Pandora Gate is something kind of like a Stargate that allows transportation to extra-solar system worlds. So humans, transhumanity, have just started to kind of explore with these Pandora Gates cautiously, because they're afraid of running into more Titan or other aliens. And there was an alien race that made contact with humans at some point called I think they're called the Founders or something, but I haven't studied on them yet, so I can't tell you much about them. Eventually, anyway, they found 4 more of these Pandora Gates, so they have a total of 5 of them in the solar system, and that has allowed them to build colonies and what they call habitats on other worlds as well, outside of the solar system. So yeah, it's a really fascinating setting. It's massive. I'm very intimidated by the amount of fluff there is to study and read, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to run some cool games in it. So I just wanted to share with you what I've learned so far. It's been a long day at work. I'm going to sign off now before I run out of memory. But yeah, I look forward to seeing you at the gaming table. Have a good night.